I guess I'll start with how we felt called. Jeff and I went as not a married couple, we were dating. In 2006, we signed up actually to go to Swaziland. The trip didn't make to Swaziland, so they said, you're going to go to Malawi. And we're like, where in the world is Malawi? They said, oh, here. It's a little country northeast of South Africa. So we went and we did the planting gardens, and well, Jeff talked. He didn't plant any gardens. He doesn't like physical labor. And one day we either had the choice of going on a safari or going to a hospital, and we found out the day before that the British were testing some kind of weapons on the safari land, so we're like, oh sweet, no animals. So we ended up going to the hospital. Well, when you go to the hospital in Africa, anywhere in Africa, they don't have sheets on the bed, they don't have food provided for you. You basically go there to die. So we went to the market and got food, you know, to give to people, like tea and sugar and stuff like that. They took us to the pediatric area where they had like the burn area and your TB people and malaria, which are not in single rooms. It's just a huge room and the partitions are like this high. So you have all these infectious diseases next to each other. So we go in the burn area, and these kids are covered up with these blankets. It's like a huge contraption or whatever, and they said that when kids get burned there, that they just put a metal cage over them and a blanket so that the flies won't eat on them, and that's it. They don't get any antibiotics, they don't get any kind of care, they just go there and monitor them, and when they die, they get rid of them. And so the lady that we were touring with, she said, you know, I'm going to show you one of these burn people just to give you a reality of how much they're not taken care of. And she pulled that blanket back on that child. He was burned from head down to the tips of his toes. You could see his spine, you could see all his flesh. And I like ooey, gory stuff, so I thought, ooh, that'd be cool. But I looked at that, ran out of the room, and got on my hands and knees in the hallway and just cried. And just cried out, just thinking, God, why, you know, why is nobody here? Why is nobody caring? Why have we not seen this before? And I call it a miracle, but I don't know what you want to call it, divine intervention. But I felt Christ telling me at that point, you will become a nurse. You will complete school, you know, you'll get a job where you want to get a job so you can get some experience, and it's going to be really hard, but you're going to leave your job and you're going to come over here and serve me and show these people me through you. And so after that, after we got done, I didn't tell Jeff any of that. I just, you know, kind of kept it to myself, just thinking, oh, I don't want it to be one of those mission trip highs where you get home and you're like, yeah, I'm going to change the world, and then, you know, 6 months later, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, went home, applied for nursing school, which didn't have the best of grades, so didn't expect to get in. But of course, like he said, went through and graduated nursing school, and got a job in the ER, which is exactly where I wanted, just like he had said. And of course, like he said, it's going to be hard to leave.
We took 2 trips to Malawi, and on really both of them, every community we went to, she's right, I really didn't plant very many gardens. Y'all are laughing. Some of y'all that have actually done projects with me know kind of how that works. And so I kind of stood around and I would talk to people, and I would kind of see what was going on in the lives of the people that we were working for and the people that we were working with, kind of seeing why are you doing what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. And a couple of things really struck me. One is you rarely saw men around when you were planting, and so I started asking, well, where are the men? Are they working? What are they doing? About 90% of the country is small farmers. They grow stuff for themselves and maybe sell a little bit extra if they have extra. So the men, you would think, would be around because we were planting gardens. And they said, no, they usually just go drink all day or do things like that. The majority of them come back and just boss their families around and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's really interesting. They talked about a lot of it is because they've never been given hope. They've never been told you can do it, you can change, you don't have to be like it has been for years. And so that kind of weighed on my heart. We're the believers that are saying there is hope, there is something you can do. You don't have to just go and get drunk all the time, come and beat your family and all those kind of things. So that really weighed heavy on my heart. The most life-changing statement for me on being called to missions was the lady that we worked with, Teresa Mulila. One day she just looked exhausted. We had been there for like 5 days maybe, at this point, and I said, man, you look really tired. Do you not get as much sleep or whatever when we're here? Is it, you know, you're doing more than you normally do? And she goes, if you saw what I saw every single day, you wouldn't be able to sleep either. And it struck me because I was like, you're right, because I get to go back to the States and I get to go out to eat and I don't have to see those kind of things. I live in a middle-class white neighborhood, go to a middle-class white church, and I don't see those things. I don't see kids starving to death. I don't see dads beating their kids all the time. It happens in the States. I just don't see it. I'm not around it. That's not who I'm ministering to. And at that point, I knew God was going, but you're going to see it every day. You're going to see it, and it needs to bother you because it's happening, and somebody's got to step in and do something. And so really from that point on, I just knew, am I going to come every summer? Am I going to come full time? But I knew God was calling me to something in Malawi specifically, not just in Africa, not just in missions. And so that was kind of the life-changing thing for me while we were there. And like she said, we really didn't talk about it while we were there. The first time we weren't married, and so obviously not staying in the same room. And so we really didn't talk about it for probably 3 or 4 months after we got back. And it's like, did God speak to you? Yeah, did he speak to you? Yeah. That's interesting. Got married, we went back the next year, and God just really confirmed. It was really interesting because the people that we were working with that live there and do ministry there, they were like, well, we're not going to say bye because we know you're coming back. They were like, so we'll just, next time you come, we'll see you. And it was really interesting because really the ministry from the States that we went with doesn't even go there anymore. They just chose to go some different routes. And so anyway, that's kind of our calling. That's why we feel compelled to go. More than anything, just being on the field and seeing it, and then God started working on our hearts